feel real what I'm about to say, but the release date of Toon Turf, the 100% actual final release date of Toon Turf is...
Wait. No way. No way this is actually happening. What? Yes, it is actually real. Toon Turf releases on November the 27th, 2025, and I have no idea how many days that is away from now when the video releases, but it is close, that's what I do know. To be honest, for the longest time, I had no idea what I would do when it was released, and I couldn't help but wonder exactly what it would be like. Would there be some dramatically big reveal, or would it just be out of the blue, out of nowhere, and I'll just be shocked to my core when I see it pop up on my YouTube homepage? It feels crazy, like, to have something that I've been speculating, considering about, and making theories about for about 2 years to actually finally release. It'll just be very interesting to see. Like, even now, it hasn't really sunk in yet that Toon Turf is actually releasing. It's actually coming out after all this time. It's just finally releasing, and I'll finally get to see what it's like. I remember once, some point in, like, May 2024, when I had a dream, an actual dream, where Toon Turf finally released, and I was, like, so shocked. Also really excited and amazed to have, like, finally seen it. I wasn't even sure if I'd live long enough, maybe some freak accident would have happened and I might never even be able to see it. But in the dream I was there and I clicked and I was watching it and I was just like so happy, and then I woke up and I was just kind of disappointed for most of the day. I haven't had any dreams about Toon Turf since, but I have been thinking about it every now and then. Like every time I go on Danno's channel and see a straw, sometimes I think about Toon Turf and I think about like it's still in development. Is Danno like working on it? Every time that he finishes a straw he just goes back to it and he works all that time on it. But yeah, and then I saw the announcement. I was like, no way is this real. This has to be some kind of joke. And it was actually announced, and now I'm kind of don't know where to begin. Unfortunately, the day it comes out I will be busy because I've got a lot of work to do now, so I won't be able to talk about it, excluding maybe a short or two in the community tab for a couple of days until maybe the weekend or something. So yeah, the point is it may be some time before I am able to make an official reaction, but it will be happening, guys, trust me. Out of everything that I've promised, this is one I want to promise the most, so just trust me on that. But another point is something that you will not see me doing is live streaming, because I think I've had enough of live streaming for quite a while. So if you weren't aware, I did a live stream a few weeks ago reacting to Bad Ideas Direct, but no one showed up. And that wasn't the real issue, because I'd be able to edit a reaction out of it and make a whole video going over Bad Ideas Direct. However, something just had to go wrong, and as I was going to edit down into a video, I checked the footage and there was no audio at all. Aside from the video recorded by my screen capture, there was no audio of me talking. It was just me basically mouthing what I was saying, but since there was no audio, it just seemed like I was a mime or something, and I wasn't really reacting to it at all. And the worst part is I spent all the evening trying to prepare for it, and I spent a whole 50 minutes on that live stream and I got nothing out of it. So then I made another live stream having some kind of breakdown of venting my frustrations, but that was like immediately after I found out the audio is muted, so I kept the thumbnail the same, and this was the thumbnail. And I think some people thought that I was angry that Toon Turf wasn't releasing tomorrow, since I thought that Danno was almost done with it. And so I made an educated wrong guess, but I thought it would release on that Thursday because Danno said Toon Turf was going to release on a Thursday, so I thought, hey, that Thursday is right after the Direct, so maybe he'll release it then. And there was a confirmed scheduled Toon Turf announcement during the Direct, so maybe I was like, this is the perfect opportunity for Danno just to troll everyone and just casually drop that it releases tomorrow. Turns out that was a few weeks out, but I wasn't angry at Danno for not releasing it on the next day because I understand that Toon Turf requires a lot of effort and time to be put into, so I don't actually want to rush him. I never really did rush him. I only joked about how he kept like rescheduling it. But hey, Toon Turf can take as long as it takes, as long as it's good. So that's what the thumbnail was for. I thought it'd release the next day, but it didn't. So my bad, guys. I didn't actually get angry at Danno. I was just angry that my audio is muted. Anyway, that information out of the way. I'm just happy that it's finally here after all this time. Now that we've got the casual information out of the way, I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time, which is an analysis. That analysis would be of the Toon Turf reveal date trailer for anything that I possibly can, and there's actually a lot to unpick from this one teaser, so let's dive into it and see what there is.
Postcard for Ruggy Riggy Runky.
So right after seeing that teaser, you might be thinking there's not a lot to analyze or unpack from that. Maybe you thought just a cool announcement to say that we have 10 days left until Toonville, but actually the more you look at it, the more you can really unpack and discover from it. Because this is a postcard, it's meant to advertise people and try and bring them into Toonville, so it's going to include the highlights of Toonville or what the best parts about it are. So from what we can see in the postcard, we'll be able to see what the main points in Toonville are, which are going to be important to the story as the season progresses and we get to explore more of Toonville and its surroundings. Anyway, let's just start off with looking at the postcard in general, because by the way, Danno's made a very detailed postcard here, and I don't think many people have actually said or mentioned how good of a postcard or how just clean looking it actually is. So good job on the postcard, Danno. Anyway, in the letters you can see the main buildings and places in Toonville, so let's have a look at them closely. So let's start off with the letter T, because as you can see there seems to be some kind of shop or apartment building, some kind of green or orange roof or just decorations in general with the letters Corp on it. Now the letters Corp may be thinking of some kind of business, so after seeing that my mind immediately jumped to Lucky, who is the main business owner and main entrepreneur in Toon Turf at the time. I'm thinking that Lucky would probably own a business or something like that, so maybe this kind of nice decorated business is some retail business or just something that's casual and not like the factory, which is more big and industrial. But also we know that Lucky owns the factory, so it's likely he owns other businesses as well, so whatever it is, it's like a shop or an apartment or just an advertisement for his business in general. It's just something to do with Lucky. That's probably what I can guess from that. Next up on the next letter, we have some bells with Lucky's symbol underneath. So it does seem to be this is a bell tower, but I'm not sure what bell tower it would be for. Maybe it's something to do with the factory, maybe it's something to do with some kind of billboard right underneath the bell. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I don't think I've seen this in any of Toonville's advertisements before, and it looks like there's a random beige house right next to it, so maybe it's either Lucky's house, which I don't think it is because we'll get to that later, or it's just some random person's house, meaning I think it's more likely to be outside the center of the village instead of right in the middle. But all things considered, this shows that if it is outside the center of the village, it shows how much control Lucky has over the area, so it can see why Ricky becomes an enemy of him later on because of how much power this one person has. But anyway, to get to my overall analysis of what I think the building is, I think it's just some kind of advertisement. It could be the factory, but I just don't think it is. It could be just some random outpost with Lucky's name on it. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it just shows how much power Lucky has. Actually, I just realized something. It could be the school, because I think there's a building we see on the actual zoomed out version of Toonville, which I didn't notice before, but there is actually a building with a bell, and I think it could be the school, since schools usually have bells, and it would be around the same size as like a building for like a school, so that's why I think it is at the moment, but I can't be sure, but I think it probably is. Next up, we have Lucky's factory, which I think it is definitely Lucky's factory, but we have the front side view of it, and we see there's actually a lake in front of it. So far, I'm not sure what that means. I think there might be a lake near the Toonville town centre, and looking back on it, I think there actually is. So what it does show is that the factory is the other side of the lake for Toonville. So what that does show is that during the factory incident, everyone in Toonville would have seen it happen, since it's only over the lake, and that would allow the police to get there fast. But in general, this is helpful because we had no idea where the factory is before, but now if we know it's across the lake and know how close it is to Toonville, like I was thinking it could be even further out, but actually it's quite close, and closer than I originally thought. We also have a waterfall. There's not much I can think of about the waterfall at the moment, but it is pretty cool. Then there's also the front path which leads to the entrance of Toonville, and you can even see the Welcome to Toonville sign, and of course we saw that in the trailer as well, so it's no surprises there. Then in another letter we have the clock tower, and we of course saw that in the trailer because that's the one of the things that was falling down in the purple fire. Now I think the clock tower might be actually really interesting because it's much more unique than to all the other buildings, and there's probably a reason for why it's there. And also it kind of stands against Lucky because most of the things in the town that are that noticeable are branded with Lucky's face somehow or the other, but this clock tower doesn't seem to be branded with Lucky, which shows how important and vital it is in standing against the commercialization of Toonville, I think. We then in another letter get to see this large building which seems to be very grand and posh and has very clean white walls and also some purple colour scheme there, which I think it means it's going to be some rich person's house. And of course we all know what rich person lives in Toonville, Lucky. I think this is Lucky's mansion, which is why I didn't think that I'd live in something so simple as the base house back there. Still, it'll be interesting to see how that house is and how important Lucky is in the town, because of course everything we've seen in the town so far usually has some kind of relation to Lucky, and he seems to be treated as some higher tier god rather than just some normal guy. Of course we also have more of the town centre, which we can see with the fountain. I believe it was called the Fountain of Luck or something like that, but yeah, we basically already saw that from the trailer, so nothing new there. And finally in this last letter, it's hard to tell what's going on, but there's some kind of Lucky there, so it's either a statue or a cutout, or maybe Lucky himself, or maybe it's some kind of shop where he sells the plushies at. But as an overall analysis of all that I can see in the postcard, it looks like Lucky is a top tier celebrity here. Most of these pictures have some kind of reference to him specifically, and I think Danno is showing this. Danno is showing all this like Lucky branding and basically telling us about the entire town being brought out by this one guy to perhaps emphasize how important of a character Lucky is throughout the Toonville. And I'm sure that we're going to get to see Toonville and how much of Lucky branding is just there. Because Danno obviously shows how much Lucky like brands everything. Because look, even the school was branded Lucky. And at the bottom of the postcard it says the home of Lucky Luckington. So even the postcard has been brought out by Lucky. I do feel like with all these short sounds done about corporate soullessness, I think Lucky is going to be a part of that, and he's probably going to show how like money buying and how like greedy companies can be. So perhaps we'll also see Lucky's two-facedness. Now finally in the background of the postcard we can just see some mountains and forests, which we already saw from teaser images like that, and I think we can just tell what Toon Turf is going to look like. It's going to be a very mountainous countryside area, and also there's lakes too, which I feel like is going to be important later on, especially with the fact there are like lakes in Toonville, and you know what lives in lakes? Aquatic animals such as dolphins, and we could already tell that there's going to be dolphins in episode 1. And I previously theorized that the dolphins are going to have something to do with the factory, and the factory is really close to the lake, so it just makes you think. On the other side of the postcard, it isn't much. The stamp is blurred. We have Riggy's address for Blueberg, but we already knew he was in Blueberg, and I assume the house that we see there is also in Blueberg. And then finally, for the teaser, we can also see the Lucky Plus there, which is just some subtle foreshadowing, because all the events that take place at the factory incident happen in Lucky's Plussy factory. But not only is it foreshadowing, but it also tells us that how much Lucky is affecting not even Toonville, just outside of Toonville, like areas like Blueberg are infected with Lucky's corporalism. Anyway, that's about it for now. Let's get back to the video. So as you saw there, there's a lot to unpack from that one tiny teaser. I was going to do a few more videos, but I kind of lost motivation over time and I focused on other things. I apologise to the Toon Turf fans who subscribed to my channel during the first early period where I was making lots of Toon Turf videos, and I'm sorry for the lack of Toon Turf videos. Not a lot was really going on. Danno is more focused on making the Toon Turf than actually making any teasers or anything, so I didn't really cover anything, and I didn't feel the need to cover anything until Toon Turf is finally uploaded. But now that it has, most of these videos now will be focused on Toon Turf, especially after Roblox's downfall. But now that all that yap is out the way, it is now time to end off the video and let me do some predictions on how episode 1 will go. Now these are pretty much inferences, so don't judge me too harsh on these if these don't actually happen, but I personally believe that episode 1's main focus will not be the action or the drama, but it should ideally be on what any main series focus is going to be, which is an introduction. Now for this introduction, I believe maybe the first 5 minutes of the episode will be focused on Blueberg and Reggy's family. I don't believe Danno need to ponder on Blueberg for too long, since the main story is in Toonville and the characters in Toonville will be very important to the key of the plot. But still, I feel like a fair bit of time will need to be spent in Blueberg to see how Riggy's upbringing raises him to be the person he ends up as, which isn't a good person. Or maybe it isn't Riggy's upbringing that makes him a bad person, but it's the situations Riggy finds himself in Toonville. But either way, it'll still be interesting to see how Riggy's upbringing affects the main focus of the story, and how Blueberg is going to be is kind of a mystery, since most of the leaks have been focused on Toonville but not Blueberg, so that's going to be very interesting to see in episode 1. We may get some kind of Zootopia intro, maybe Riggy will encounter some bullies like in Zootopia 2 or something. And funnily enough, in Zootopia, the rabbit also ends up moving to a bigger city to find more opportunities, so maybe Danno will take a leaf out of Zootopia's book and structure it like that, especially considering in Zootopia, the intro bit, it highlights the main themes about predator versus prey, so maybe Danno would do the same about the prophecy, and I think that's actually been confirmed. It is funny how Zootopia may actually be more similar to Toon Turf than we'd be willing to admit. Anyway, enough about Zootopia, but what I was saying there is that I think season 1's theme of Toon Turf will be about the prophecy, because at the start of the episode, I think it has been confirmed, Riggy has a vision where Toonville is burning in flames and there's a lot of destruction, and one of the focus shots right there is Riggy standing there with a knife looking like a psychopathic murderer. So I'm assuming this vision which Riggy has will be a main plot point throughout season 1, but also a main merch point. Heck yeah, look at that hoodie. Anyway, as I was saying, this vision where he has at the start might be reoccurring, and it might be the reason why he goes to Toonville to stop that vision from actually happening and being an issue. That might be the reason he goes to Toonville. Another reason why is maybe because he's a fan of Lucky, which will explain why he has a Lucky Plus on his cupboard or something. Also, I'm going to draw your attention back to a leak that we got over 2 years ago which mentioned about reverse character arcs. When I was looking for a reference, I couldn't find it, but maybe I'll be able to find it later on, but I swear that it was there, and it was talking about reverse character arcs such as the one in Breaking Bad, I think. I've not watched that show, but apparently there's one there. But I'm sure that's going to be important, because the Riggy we know commits lots of crimes and is not a very good person, but I believe that at the start he was a good person. I believe in Blueberg he was a good person, and there's going to be something that happens in season 1 which changes him, and I'll get to that later on, because I think that Toon Turf will follow a structure similar to one of the very famous books that has been studied, which is Macbeth. Hold on, let me cook. Now you may be thinking it's a bit random why I've suddenly mentioned Macbeth, and it is, because I think that it's not going to be very clear at the start, but it will eventually follow a character's arc similar to Macbeth, which is a reverse character arc, where a hero, despite having good intentions, becomes a bad person due to the situation that they've put themselves in. And I feel like there are certain similarities with the idea of Macbeth being so linked to the prophecies and Toon Turf being so linked to prophecies that I think it's going to be similar in a way. I don't want to spoil Macbeth too much, but basically Macbeth does not become a good person at the end of a book and does some bad things. Although I don't think Riggy will be acting with malicious intent, but accidentally causing perhaps bad things to happen. And also I feel like Toon Turf, similar to Elite Macbeth, will be following some key themes of fate versus free will, where you have to wonder, is it something that Riggy was always destined to cause and always destined to cause this downfall, or was it perhaps his own decisions and actions which led to the end of Toonville, or the destruction of Toonville and the Purple Fire?
And stop them from doing dumb things.
Don't go to the factory.
But as of right now,
which is very similar ideas to Macbeth. And if you're not very into literature and Macbeth, how about movies? Because it's like that one Uguay quote in Kung Fu Panda where it says, one often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it, which I feel like is going to play a key role in Toon Turf. But those are some ideas I'll leave you with Macbeth and Kung Fu Panda and Utopia. I think those literature will be kind of inspiration to Toon Turf, and I feel like a lot of these leaks that we've had are similar to all these three properties and ideas. But now it's time to talk about the final plot point, and the final thing I want to mention is about the factory. Because no, I do not think the factory will be happening in episode 1, and I don't think it will be happening in episode 2 either. I think the factory incident will be the finale of season 1 if all the episodes do well, of course. And the reason I think that is the factory incident is going to be a big event. It's going to be the event which makes Riggy into a good person to a bad person. I think that's the situation where Riggy starts to become morally incorrect, where maybe Riggy's involvement in the prophecy leads him down a dark path. And to be that big of a plot point, I don't think the factory incident is something they can just cram into the end of episode 1 or something. It needs to be its own full episode, which is why I think it's going to be the finale. And plus, it's confirmed that episode 1 takes place in 2019, and so does the majority of the series, and the factory incident has documents which are set in early 2020 in February. So for the factory incident to be the very start, I don't think that's very likely at all. In fact, I think it's almost impossible. But either way, it'll be fun to see the finale and see if it is actually the factory incident. But I don't have to worry about that soon, since I'll probably be old and blind and not even be able to see it in the year 2100 when it finally comes out. But seriously though, I don't know how we're going to have to wait 2 more years for every episode. It'll take ages that way, and I hope Danno hires a team of animators to speed up the process a little bit. I do believe though the finale will be starting to be set up and build up throughout the episodes, with even early hints happening in episode 1, but just not the actual thing, because Billy has been confirmed to be in episode 1, so maybe there's going to be links between him and the factory incident, since, well, you know what happens to him, don't you? Anyway, that's all about I have to say, and remember, that's just a theory. Wait, what's this? Wait, it's my other channel, Theories FN. Yeah, this is the reason why I've been able to upload for so long, and I spent about a week on this chunky video on Fortnite Mez. So, if you happen to like Fortnite, why not give it a try and embrace the holiday spirit? Just not the Christmas holiday spirit, but the Halloween one. You know, you don't have to watch it, but I did spend a week on this one video, and if it doesn't mean anything to you about Fortnite, then don't watch it. But if you like Fortnite, I would appreciate it if you watch it, because it basically has no views, and if it doesn't improve, well, I may cry myself to sleep every night. Anyway, hey, it's never too early for Halloween. Yeah, it's because, you know, Christmas adverts in July or whatever, you know, so why not celebrate Halloween in December? Yay! Please. Ah!